Your mornings just got better.
You're gonna have fun here.
Yeah. Jane, Jane, Jane. Only on Metro Mornings.
Here she comes to wreck the day.
Good morning, Chennai. This is Metro Mornings. You're with me, Jane, on Chennai Live, 104.8 FM on platform. Today we have Tony Xavier, director of IMS Chennai. Well, Tony, good morning and welcome to the show.
Morning, Jane.
All right, top of the morning to you. I'm loving the fact that we have different people from various walks of life on the show. Yesterday, we were two youngsters who've taken up fitness as a career and they've started up something new after doing an entire tour across the length and breadth of the United States. They came back and set something up in Poe's Garden and love the way they've kind of customized it for Chennai. Tell us, IMS Chennai, I'm sure this is something a lot of students and parents would be more than happy to know more about. Tell us a little bit about it.
IMS is actually India's first test prep company. It was started in 1977 by an Ahmedabad professor, Professor Rane. So we are currently present in about more than 50 cities across the country. We train students to get into the IIMs, which is the test called the CAT, and to also get into premier schools abroad, through the GMAT and the GRE. So that's what we train students for.
All right, so
Yeah.
it's the big gold rush that happens
Yeah.
with IMS. And
Yeah.
You have how many branches in India at this point?
In India, at this point, we'll be having close to 80 branches.
Right,
Yeah,
and
yeah. In Chennai, we run 3 centers here.
what are you ranked as in terms of the work that you do?
In terms of the work that we do, I think we're basically, different segments. In the East, maybe we'll be number 1. In the West, we'll be number 2. So it'll be like,
What
ranked
about the
different,
South?
yeah.
How are you doing?
South, we're doing pretty well, actually. So Chennai, we're doing pretty well. Bangalore, we're doing pretty well.
And
So that,
what's it
yeah.
looking like as far as employability and study options for students in Chennai is concerned? What is it looking like really at this point in time? I know recession has hit a lot of countries abroad, but India still seems to be staying afloat.
In India, staying afloat, I think a lot of it has to do with the e-commerce market because, the Amazons and the Flipkarts and the Mintras, they're literally on steroids in terms of the funding that they're getting. So they're actually taking a lot of load off the employment market per se because they're recruiting in large numbers. Another thing maybe is that it's very tough now to actually have a great career without a master's. So with just a bachelor's, it will hit a wall at some point. So people generally have to start thinking about how important a master's is.
Absolutely. If you want to go further and push the envelope, and especially when you're in large companies, you would really require that sexy degree on your resume,
After
right?
a point, you just hit a wall, because you won't, maybe till age 30, you'll be fine. But after that, you'll find very little growth options.
All right. On the other side, we'll come back and find out about what the Chennai market in terms of students are looking at, especially, when they're young and they've just finished. And also for those professionals who've really hit that saturation, just like Tony said, what are some of the options available is something we'll find out more about on the other side. Stay tuned and stay happy. This is Chennai Live, 104.8 FM. Good morning, Chennai. This is Metro Mornings. You're with me, Jane, on Chennai Live, 104.8 FM. Tony Xavier, director of IMS Chennai, in the house. Well, thank you so much for joining us. In November 2012, you decided to take a full-on plunge into running a business and move from being an employee to a business partner of IMS. Now, you run the IMS franchise in Chennai, and that has centers in Adyar, Ananagar, and Tambaram. And you're actively involved in helping students both prepare for tests such as the CAT, GMAT, and GRE, and also help them get into their dream educational institutions. Thank you so much, Tony, for joining us in the house.
Thank you, Jane.
All right, what about the shift for you? You yourself were doing something. What were you doing?
I actually, maybe to actually take it back a bit, I did my engineering maybe like most people in the South. That's the first thing that you do. But maybe you do that for 4 years just to figure out that that's not what you want to do. So,
Just like everybody
yeah,
else.
just like everybody else. That's what I did. But I was always good with communication skills and handling things. So that's why I thought maybe I'll take up a career in management. That's how I took the CAT, and that's how I got into IIM Lucknow, did my MBA. But after that, I was working. I thought, if I'm an MBA, I majored in marketing and operations. I thought I'll sell what I love. I love clothes. So that's how I, joined the Aditya Birla Group. And I was working with them, handling Alan Solly, Van Heusen, and Louis Philippe. These brands for TN and Kerala.
Great. So this is exclusive niche retail that you were part of.
That was what I was doing. But then I was always good at tests. Right through childhood, I was very good at tests, and I like taking tests.
You're one of those rare species.
Yeah, I think it's the
You
way.
like like tests? Are you telling me you
Yeah,
love
I
it?
genuinely love tests. Like if you ask me to go tomorrow and take all those 3 tests, I'll be happy. For me, it's like go and play for a whole day. I don't eat food as well. So
Wow.
I'll just go through and do that. So
So what was your score like? I would love to know because you got into I am Lucknow. Weren't you looking at I am Ahmedabad?
I got a call from Ahmedabad, but I was pretty fresh. I was just maybe 21, and I couldn't maybe crack the interview at that point of time. So I got an interview call from Ahmedabad, Calcutta, Lucknow, and Kozhikode. Got through Lucknow and Kozhikode.
So you got the
yeah.
scores because the scores were high?
Yeah, scores were high. Yeah,
What was the score like?
At that point of time, actually, it's way back in the past. We never even got a scorecard. You just got a call.
Okay, that's
so
roundabout it.
Yeah,
Today
yeah.
scorecards are being let
Today's
out.
scorecards are being
It's
let
being more
out. It's more transparent. People have filed cases.
Okay,
yeah,
but
so.
you got calls from everywhere, which means you had good test scores.
Yeah, I better do, because otherwise, I shouldn't be teaching, so that's what, because I think it's a big, fallacy that those who can't do teach, actually those who can do teach better, so I
So
think.
you actually love it and you thought you'll get back. So you quit your job?
Yeah, I quit my job, and 2 years into it, I quit my job, and a friend of mine who was also, a bit, frustrated with the regular corporate job, he said, hey, you might like this place called IMS, they're into designing all of this, and, I myself had used IMS content when I was preparing for the CAT. So he said that there's a space in the content development division, why don't you go, you might enjoy making questions, and creating problems for others. So that's how I joined them, and for 6 years I was there in Bombay, and they had the head office designing content for all tests, CAD, GMAT, GRE, and I absolutely enjoyed it. I had a group of very bright people to work with, and that was maybe a very good phase of my life.
Wonderful. So you enjoyed making those questions. I wonder what your nerd quotient level is. You've ever tested your IQ?
I haven't, but it should be reasonably decent because I think I've taken the GMAT and the GRE as well. So the
Right.
scores, reasonably good. I wouldn't say I'm a nerd
They
because.
say every child is different. You're definitely a different and unique child. So you love your tests, you love making them, you work with them for 6 years. That's when you decided to start your own center?
Yeah, I think I'd basically done most of the things I could do there. So I thought maybe what about a change? Since I'm an MBA, I should at some point of time, get into the business side of things. So I thought I need to shake up my life in a big way, and that's why I thought, no, let's move. Let's take a big plunge.
Right. We'll talk about that big plunge on the other side. Stay tuned and stay happy. How often do you meet a person who says, I like tests, I like making questions for people, I like making problems? Not too often, right? We will lock horns with Tony Xavier on the other side. Stay tuned and stay happy. CAT, GMAT, GRE, and all of that, the scores that you need to get high so that you get into the right educational institution of your choice. Well, here's a man you can possibly say hi to. Thank you so much, Tony, for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having me here.
All
Jay.
right, it's lovely to have a nerd in the house, and I can't say fellow nerd because I'm not, but I always had a penchant for people who can, really solve those test papers really well. I, for one, didn't do my CAT really well, and I didn't get placed in a great institute. I can talk quite a bit, and that's why I'm on radio today. But I do know that a lot of my friends had to take up their GRE, GMAT to go abroad. Some of them doing fantastically well. In fact, all of them doing very well in their lives today. And they finished school abroad, various universities. But tell us, when it comes to the Ivy League institutes, what is it like as far as the Indian context goes today?
If you look at it, one of the things that most of the Ivy League institutes look at is that they need a very good representation of students from different nationalities. So because companies now, any company right now has offices across the globe.
Absolutely.
The only way a person who's maybe going to be positioned in Asia Pacific can have some idea about Asia is if he actually has a very close friend with whom he's studied on campus. That can be the connect for him about knowing what Asians are like. So that is the reason why there's a very good chance if Indians apply to get in, because India is a very big market. And so they would want a certain number of Indians in all of these B schools or anywhere else that is. So India, that way, Indians stand a pretty good chance, and normally Indians get good test scores.
Absolutely.
So
I did have
reasonably
a
good test
student
scores,
who
yeah.
was on my show, and he finished class 12 and went to Harvard straight after that. And he said if you just put your eyes on it, like train, you can just go. Is this something that is becoming more acceptable today? I'm not just talking about Harvard, but I'm just talking about students going out there and knowing that there's much more out there and trying for it earlier?
Yeah, I think that is actually a big change in the last few years, because what's also happening is parents are more knowledgeable. Parents are more knowledgeable, and we know that maybe in India with the crazy competition to get into maybe even the IITs or the other colleges here, it's actually very tough. Not because the students are not good enough, but there are a lot of people fighting for very few seats. And with parents being more knowledgeable, they've especially kids who've studied in IB schools, right? For them to come back and adjust in the Indian setup is much more tougher. It's easier for them to go to an American university and study. So parents are becoming more knowledgeable, and they know that there's plenty out there.
And as far as finance options are concerned, I think there is lots for kids to go out there and study, if they want to.
Yeah, and in terms of just the number of options in India, it's very, very limited to engineering and medicine, and the arts basically are ignored to a very large extent. So students who want to get into architecture, who want to get into journalism, want to get into literature, the number of options are huge. And even the finance options as well. If you have a good profile and if you have good test scores, scholarship options are always available.
Absolutely. So that's something that students and parents are more open to. So it's a wider canvas. It's not just your city, your country, but wherever you can go and whatever you want to speak, people are talking about. In fact, on our show today, we're talking about midlife crisis overall. Lots of people sometimes at 30, 35, 40, various stages just don't know what to do. And usually a lot of them, because of lack of choices, start doing things which are not productive. They get into not like nefarious activities, not really terrible ones, but they become unproductive and become negative.
Or they buy an Enfield.
Yeah. So what's that segment of the population looking like today?
I think for a bulk of it has to do with the fact that we go through the motions for the better part of our lives, and in India maybe we remain children for the longest time. Maybe it's only after 25 where we can actually call that people become adults at some stage. So that is when they suddenly realize that where's my life going? What have I been doing? They are not cut out for this. So and then they become very desperate. They want, and after that, what I've seen is that they really want the moon after that. So they want to make a huge transition. I'll be very honest that maybe very huge transitions are not possible unless you have the background for that at some level.
Absolutely.
You've done something.
There has to
on
be
the
something
side.
incrementally
Something
positive
towards the change in terms of what you're doing. You've already done something on the side informally. For example, you want to take up I know of a person who took up a photojournalism course. After maybe doing engineering now. So, but on the side, she had a lot of stuff that she had done. Within that field.
Interest or a passion, is very difficult to make that huge sea change.
Huge sea change but it's very easy to make a change into the management side of things. So you are an IT, but you don't want to be what people call a code monkey or anything of that sort, and you genuinely you feel that you want to take on bigger roles. Then maybe a career in management is what will give you that. And the best part is that right now, both in India and abroad, you can actually do an MBA at various points in your life. It can be at 21, it can be after working for about 7 years. Most of the IIMs have a separate course, which is a 1-year program. Abroad, actually, again, another trend is people after doing one MBA, they do a second MBA, much later.
Absolutely.
Because they
from a more premier institution.
So, more than that, actually, they're more aware of what they are.
Absolutely.
And,
they work for a while. They know what they want.
Yeah.
They know which is their specialization.
Yeah.
And which country they'd like to work in. So these are things that I think you get into only when you hit your 30s maybe.
I think late 20s is when people get that clarity, and there are enough options actually, both India as well as abroad, to take a quick 1 year a break, do an MBA, and rejig your career and get that break.
Absolutely. Well, sounds like a plan. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. You
Thanks,
have
Jane.
lots of IMS centers in Chennai.
Yeah.
If you had to do a special plug-in for students and for young adults and for also people who are looking at that big change, what do you think IMS has to offer?
I think what we're really good at is not necessarily selling a test or preparing people for a test, but actually, trying to figure out what test they should take in the first place. Right? A lot of people just come to us absolutely confused, not knowing which one to do. Should I do CAT? Should I do GMAT? Should I do GRE? So if there is one thing that we are really good at, is helping them build a great career. The test and the mentoring part comes secondary, but the first thing is actually identifying. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's something that you help them with.
Absolutely.
Because you've traveled the length and the breadth of this country. You've seen lots of students, professionals.
Yeah.
So you kind of know what a person can do, what their avenues at least are.
Exactly.
Thank you very much, Tony, for joining us on the show. What's your final shout out to Chennai listening in today? It's a beautiful Wednesday morning. Tell us what you feel.
I think most of my, I always deal with students, and all of them in the next few months will be taking a lot of tests. I just want to say all the best to all of them, for their careers. That's about it. Yeah.
All right. And to, of course, Chennai, who's possibly looking at what can I do next, IMS is a good option to come in and have a little bit of a career counseling session with you.
Definitely,
Yes, thank you, Tony. On the other side, more coming up. This is Chennai Live, 104.8 FM. Stay tuned and stay happy.
Oh, that woman gets me all worked up.
Metro.